Hi, today we're going to look at the different types of modes. We're going to look at things called Ionians, things called Mixolydians, hear the difference there, and things like Dorians, different sound again, different sound. But we're going to start them all on the same note, because if you don't start them on the same note, you don't really get to hear what is actually separating them. So if we want to compare distance, we have to compare the distance from the same starting place. And when we say distance, we mean intervals like tones and semitones. So if you're not sure with basic terminology like tones and semitones, rather first get that under the belt and then you can proceed. But let's assume you got that, and let's start with the Ionian mode. Now the Ionian mode is your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, your major scale. Okay, so the major scale here starting on C is the Ionian mode. Two names for exactly the same thing. It builds a major triad, and if you play that starting on C, let's do it again slowly so you can see it and maybe play it with me. It works nicely with a C chord. You can hear the two work well together. Okay. Now, the major scale is your reference. This means that all the other modes get compared to it. So later when we talk about Mixolydian, for example, we can say it's got a flattened seventh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 should be there, but it's now there. But we'll get to that later. Okay. Now, chords you can expect that work well with the C Ionian is a C chord itself. C major 7. Very, very nice chord. And if you put that together, the only difference here is this first finger changes to the note B. And if I go back to my scale and I count 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is B. So this note here helps us now to play the C major 7th arpeggio. Let's try the C major 7th together. There's the major 7. Okay, there we go. Just a quick progression so we can hear how nice these chords can work together. We're going to go C, C major 7, F, F major 7. Now obviously we can build hundreds of different chord progressions from the Ionian mode. So please, in order to keep this study under a few hours, we're just going to go and play just one example for each one. Later in other videos we'll work specifically on chord progressions where you can learn a lot more. But for now, for this one, C, C major 7, and F, and 1. Just a basic sort of example how the two scales, or the scale and the two chords, can all work well together. That is your C Ionian. It's the reference scale. And let's go to the next major mode. The Lydian is going to sound like this. Now if we compare that, we can automatically hear one of the notes sounds weird, eh? Now that note there is the note that changes. Let's have a look at the position with respect to C. The C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4. The C Lydian, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth note from the major has been raised to there, which is now an F sharp, to give you the Lydian. So C Lydian is actually in a different key because it's got an F sharp. C Lydian actually comes from the key of G major. So if you were to play the G major scale from here, and you left out the first few notes, those ones and you started on the 4th, you'd actually have your Lydian scale. Which again proves that amongst other things, modes are also positions as well as being able to give you tonalities. In other words, they set a certain difference if you compare to the same starting position. Now the reason why it's a major based mode is because the arpeggio pulled from C in C Lydian is exactly the same as the C major arpeggio you learned previously. And the reason why this works is because the 4th note and the sharpened 4th note aren't being used. You can see I'm pointing them out. They aren't being used for the arpeggio. If you go to the major 7th arpeggio, that also isn't influenced by the raised or sharpened 4th. So if you're thinking of C Lydian, you can still play C and C major 7 if you wanted to. Sounds pretty cool. I used a different voicing here. Previously I did C there and C major 7 there. But just to show there's more than one way to play the chords too. There's a C bar chord, C major 7 bar chord. So it's good to know different voicings. They give different tonalities, different tonalities, different sort of sounds. It's the combination of the notes that gives a different sort of a sound to it. Now a nice progression for us to work with over here perhaps is to go in the key of G, obviously, because it's C Lydian, from C major 7 to B minor 7 to maybe an A minor 7 to G. That's one example of many hundreds that you could build inside C Lydian. I purposely started on the C to highlight the C chord to B minor 7. You can see the shape nice and clearly there. A minor 7 and normal G. Okay, so again, we can always have different ways to play the chords. Each mode we're studying will start on the note C, and each will have a slightly different sound to it, a different tonality, and with that comes a different key, which in turn will give us different chords to work with. So another important lesson is that if you start on the chord C, doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the key of C. For example, C Lydian started with a C major 7, but it goes to the B minor 7. Beautiful change. I can also play A minor 7 here, and then G over here, normal G, and that's actually in the key of G. So your opening chord doesn't necessarily determine the key, but it can set a tonality. It gives a major feel, or the mode itself obviously will give that characteristic of the mode too. Our third and final major related mode is the Mixolydian mode. And the Mixolydian mode is going to sound like this. Here we go. You can hear something's also different there. Let's go back to the major, your Do, Re, Mi. And let's play the Mixolydian. There's the note that changes. Let's count that position and see what has changed. There's C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And instead of going to 7 there where the third finger is, that is now our Mixolydian's characteristic note. It's what gives it its name. It's what determines that it's Mixolydian. It's the 7th note flattened. In other words, a dominant 7th, which can also be viewed as a minor 7th, onto the octave. So let's just run through that one slowly. Here is C Mixolydian. What's nice about the Mixolydian, it still allows us to build a C major chord or a C major arpeggio. But when you go to the 7th, we can no longer build the C major 7th because the 7th note, which is normally there, has now been lowered. So our new arpeggio is going to sound like this. Which is known as the dominant 7th and is simply written as C7. It's great for a blues sound as well, so if you're doing a blues. accidentally played the major 7th. Apologies. Okay, remember to flatten that for the dominant 7th, and one more time the C 7th arpeggio. Okay, now we're going to see how the difference goes. We've been doing C to C major 7, and then we played at the B minor 7, for example, for C Lydian, or we went to F for the Ionian. Let's now in the key of C Mixolydian, which happens to be in the key of F, because this note here, the flattened 7th, is B flat, and that comes from your F major scale. Okay, so to rewind to the beginning, your major scale, C, was in the key of C major, because Ionian is the major scale. Your Lydian was in the key of G, because it's got the F sharp sitting inside there. And then you're going to have the C Mixolydian, which gives us the key of F because of the B flat note inside there. We're going to go, for the fun of it, C to that C dominant, and now listen how nice that C to C7 leads us into the F chord. It's going to go C, and there you have it. Okay, it works very, very nicely. That change, for example, from the C7 to the F, you can hear it gives closure. It's called a 5-1 progression, because if you were in the key of F and you counted up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that note is C, C onto the C7th chord, onto the F, the first chord. So whenever you hear about a 1-5 or a 1-3-4 progression or anything like that, those numbers, normally written as Roman numerals, indicate the positions of the chord, but that's also another study for another day. So what have we learned so far? We've learned we've got 3 major modes, the Ionian being the reference. Then you're looking at the Lydian being the 4th mode, because you balled it from the 4th position of the G major scale. And then you're looking at the C Mixolydian, which you play from the 5th note of the F major scale. All of them allowed us to ball the C major arpeggio. And what we've also learned, as we mentioned, is that just because you start on the chord C doesn't mean you're in the key of C. You could be in the key of G, because G goes to, there is a C chord inside there, so there's nothing stopping you from reversing it. And there you've got a perfectly functional key of G jam. It can also be the 5th position in the key of F. Also works quite nicely. Okay, but for more chord progressions, we'll see you on another video. There's going to be one now on the minor modes as well, and then later we'll also include more of a hard rock one with some distortion and overdrive, explaining a bit more about this. Have an awesome day, and if you've got any questions, please drop me a WhatsApp or go to Ian's guitar page on YouTube and ask me a question. I'll be more than happy to answer.